This is Rudo Radio coming to you from the 559.
Hello and welcome to Rudo Radio, SB Nation and Cage Side Seats weekly wrestling podcast. I am Nick Bond, joined as ever by Mr. Mark Normandy. Mark,
So that's new.
how are you?
I'm doing better. We took 2 weeks off there. You call it a weekly wrestling podcast, but I feel like we're lying now. Because we took like a 2-week hiatus. But we did that because, we're so selfish. I bought a house and I moved, and Nick got married, and I thought we were doing a good thing by doing it at the same time. So, this wasn't happening constantly and interrupting your lives, but I don't know. Some of you didn't see it that way.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to be able to have the recording after the wedding, because my wedding was on the same night of Clash of Champions. And you, for a little inside baseball, were very, very tired the Wednesday before. And I was very, very tired. So we were like, so next week, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. Maybe we don't do it 2 weeks. So that's where it came from. We were definitely not doing last week, but the week before that was something that came because of the sheer exhaustion of our lives, making us collapse upon ourselves. So for that, we apologize. But we are hopping right back into it. We're going to do our usual. What I did notice, looking at the calendar, is basically every week from this point forward, that's a normal month and not one with a big 4 pay-per-view, is going to be a situation where we're basically reviewing a pay-per-view or previewing a pay-per-view every other week. So that's fun. And what we're going to do for those weeks, for the most part, is we're going to talk about what we liked or didn't like on the show that's not having the pay-per-view or didn't have the pay-per-view, and then review or preview the pay-per-view, which we're going to do this week for No Mercy. But we're going to start off by talking about what we liked and didn't like on Raw, which I thought, and I have heard from other people, that it was probably one of the better Raws since the brand extension, though I don't think anything about it was particularly great. How did you feel, Mark? And did you have something in particular that really stood out for you?
Well, before we dive into that, I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about what happened in Clash of Champions. I just want to talk about how I had to watch it. I was at a wedding the same day that Nick got married, and not Nick's wedding. Don't think I've forgotten, Nick.
Yeah. But, thanks for remembering my anniversary, because I sure as hell didn't.
So I'm at this wedding, and I think like there are buses. The wedding is 40 minutes away from the hotel, and I think there are like buses back to the hotel at some point. So I'll grab one and I'll start watching Clash of Champions at like 10:30 or something. Turns out there was one set of buses, and they were at 12:15 in the morning. So I started watching Clash of Champions a little after that on my phone, on this bus for a 40-minute ride back to the hotel. And then watched some more of it on the hotel until I fell asleep on the floor of the hotel where I was watching it on my laptop, and then watched the rest on the drive back from Westchester to Maine. And then I wrote a recap of it when I got back to the apartment. So
Wow.
that was not my most convenient viewing of a pay-per-view, but I did it. I did it for all of you who read me anyway, instead of just listen.
If you did it for the Rock, you did it for the people. There was no chance. I tried. My now wife said, nope, no chance. I'm talking like 6 months ago when they first announced when the show would be. I was like, hey, honey, maybe we bring in a TV? And she's like, no, never in a million years. So, yeah, I didn't watch it. I have watched everything since. I've enjoyed it. SmackDown, as we'll get to, is on some next level business. But, yeah, like I said, Raw was It was an episode of Raw that was better than average. I think it's weird that people are complaining about Raw not having great ratings when it's football and presidential debates that are beating it. But I've thought it's been good the past couple of weeks. Kevin Owens has been a pretty good champion. Not pretty good. I think he's been he's been the greatest Universal Champion of all time.
I think that's fair to say. I have no counterpoint.
But did you? Because you mentioned we talked about the show beforehand, meaning Raw. You said you in particular liked KO, right? That was KO and Jericho and everything they did was a highlight for you.
Yeah, it's absurd how much better Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho are than everyone else in the men's division right now in terms of like the story that's being told and the way that they're reacting to like things big and small. Everyone around them is better for it in all those moments. So like Seth Rollins has been great as well, but he's often interacting with those two. Even the New Day on Monday were the most entertaining they've been in a while, and it's because they were opposite Kevin Owens and Jericho, and just kind of a general feeling of like this show is so much better when they're around, and that's good. I think part of the problem is you said like, yeah, it was a good Raw, but there's a lot of it that just kind of happened. But then there were these parts like, everything with Owens and Jericho, and there's other stuff too, but I don't want to steal it all for this little bit, that really like bring it to being like a better than average Raw. But it was very, the episode is very heavily carried by those couple of groups and segments.
Yeah, and it's not even that the rest of the show is bad. It's just those are actively good segments, and everything else is kind of actively there. It feels like you said, it just kind of happens. I feel like Jericho and Owens have actual motivations both with each other and against each other. And then you have the New Day seeing people that actually have a potential to take their title, because I think part of the problem with the New Day is they don't take seriously the feuds where they know they're not going to... There's no stakes for them. Like, I don't think that the Bullet Club, or the Club, or whatever you want to call them, was established enough to really have a chance to take the titles from the New Day. I think someone like Sheamus and Cesaro might be established in their own singles ways, as singles competitors, to be able to like mount a challenge against the New Day. And the same thing with Jericho and Owens, but I think that's why they played up to their competition. And yeah, I think those were I think Jericho and Owens, outside of the main event, which we'll get to, was the strongest part of the show, because they're two of the 4 or 5 best performers on the show, and they are the best. I think the best combination out of anybody. That includes Sasha and Charlotte, or Dana Brooke and the Universe. They're putting together some really cool stuff, and not hinting at dissension as much as being like, come on, of course there's dissension. Have you met us? We're bad guys.
I did love that Owens realized halfway through like the negotiation with Jericho that it was a negotiation. Jericho's like, oh, let's go for the tag team titles. Hey, it's not like I'm asking to challenge for your championship. And Owens is like, just a light bulb goes off where he's like, yeah, I should keep you occupied, and we should be a team so that you feel like you're part of something instead of, my opponent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think Jericho's the Jericho character is playing it very smart, which is that like he does actually seem to both find utility and genuinely like the Kevin Owens. Like, they actually seem to enjoy being douchebags together, which is something you don't get in a lot in life. Sometimes you meet your soulmate, and sometimes you meet your douchemate, and they're douchemates together, and it's beautiful to watch. And I actually didn't totally hate the segment with Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson, because those two were involved, especially Jericho. Him popping back around was actually really funny. That genuinely made me laugh. Yeah, I was happy with everything, and I have been. Chris Jericho is my choice for the best overall performer of all time at this point, and Kevin Owens is also pretty special. So it's I'm really happy with the pairing, and even if they end up, it's not a situation where we've had so many great times, I don't want to see them break up. I'm totally fine with them breaking up, but they really work together well right now.
Yeah, for sure. I assume Jericho's not sticking around forever though, because eventually you have to go on tour or promote a book or the host of whatever show he's going to host. So I'm sure we'll have the breakup sooner than later, and it'll be devastating, but it'll also be entertaining.
And I know you were bored by something that happened that I want you to get to, but I'm starting to get bored, though I did like this specific instance of it, which was Braun Strowman versus Jobber of the Week. I'm glad this is where they're cutting it off. I think if they went even another week past this, it would start to get too redundant, because they've built up tropes to a point where they actually had him say it to the crowd essentially, which I don't think happened before. I think all of those interviews were the audio was hooked through to the television, but the crowd couldn't actually hear. And this was the first one where it's like the crowd's getting involved and this dude getting murdered. And then they interviewed Strowman after, and I'm happy he was like, "This is stupid. Can we please do something else?" Because it hasn't quite reached stupid, but it probably would have over the next week or two.
I think my favorite part of that segment is that Sin Cara does not qualify as like legitimate competition. Like he just lumped in the rest of the jobbers for Strowman. He's like, yeah, who is he? Does he work here? Oh, that's weird. I thought he was local talent.
Yeah, it was and Strowman is surprisingly not terrible on the mic for the guy who played Ogre in Revenge of the Nerds. I enjoy this entire packaging. I have no clue where you go from here in terms of like what his ceiling is. Because I can't imagine him and like Seth Rollins having a match at any point. Like I think that model of monster heel has went to the wayside by actually not Seth Rollins so much as Brock Lesnar. And I don't think they're going to have Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman really, like have a really long program. I could be wrong about that, but right now it's just cool to see them actually building a mid-card using a guy like that. But I'm interested to see what his ceiling is. But for right now, I'm just happy that they're moving on when they did.
I mean, he's going to lose to Roman Reigns.
That.
He's going to get, like Ryback to Cena. This is what's going to happen.
Well, speaking of Reigns, you said to me, I believe you were watching it. Man, they've managed to make me slightly bored of Rusev and Reigns, correct? Or that's paraphrasing, but you basically said something to that effect. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I like both of those guys a lot, but
yeah,
the pacing has been all weird for this. Like the highest intensity of the entire feud was SummerSlam. And then they broke off to do something else, essentially. And then Rusev came back from his honeymoon, and like it started up again. And then they had their match, and I don't know. It's the pacing's been strange. Bored is maybe a little strong, but I am not as interested in it as I was. And I'm sure they're going to have like a baller match at Hell in a Cell, especially because they'll have it in a cell.
And that is really great. Roman's last Hell in a Cell match was great. That is such a good Bray Wyatt match.
Yeah. I'm concerned about the weeks I have to like survive Raw until that match, It's when I just feel like they're trying to do too much with Roman, and they're still doing the like, do you like him now? How about now?
They're trying to hit a 5-run home run. You can't do it. Like nothing is going to get him up to where you want him to be in one swing. I don't care how good the feud is. That's just not how it's ever worked. And I love Rusev. I think anyone that listens to this show knows how much I love Rusev. But he's not the guy to catapult you to super duper stardom if the crowd doesn't want you to be a super duper star. Could he have catapulted someone like Daniel Bryan to like that upper mid main event level? Yeah, but Roman Reigns ain't Daniel Bryan. They don't not like Roman Reigns because he punches people too hard. They don't like him because they don't like his personality. And you're making him almost out to be, if not like a gaslighting misogynist, at least kind of a dick. And I don't think that works in a feud with they have a serious problem with Rusev being a reasonable person who cares about his wife. Like, that's kind of the underlying story, is like, no, Roman was a real jerk to him and his family, and he wants to kill Roman. I'm not sure how that makes him a bad guy.
It's confusing. I mean, Reigns is the heel in essentially every feud he has. Rusev is like the only guy they've managed to get one of these like Go America, boo foreigners things working with in a way where it's not like cheesy and bad. And crowds are still cheering for him over Roman Reigns.
Yeah, Rusev is actually, like, maybe outside of Yokozuna, the best foreign heel of the modern WWE. Like, he's great because he's also happens to be a jerk about his patriotism. He's a total jerk outside of that, except for the fact that he loves he genuinely loves Lana, and they don't shy away from that, which is cool. I actually really like it. I think the Lana and Rusev relationship, especially after all of the crap they went through last year, is actually really strong and an example of a pretty good marriage, which they're more accepting of now than they used to be. But yeah, he's just in a weird place with a guy that's always a heel, though is pushed as the babyface. Like, he's not a good guy. He's a jerk. He's a big jerk. And he punches people hard, and it's cool. I love the fact that he punches people hard. But, like, there's just something about him that will not get him over as a face anytime soon. And there's a bunch of things about him that will not get him over as a face anytime soon. And I wish they would lean into that more. Especially because you have the hot fire babyface in Seth Rollins. Like, that dude is money as a babyface. I want to root for him as a babyface. And I love Seth as a heel more than almost anybody in the roster. Like, just ride the Rollins train as far as it takes you in terms of a babyface, and let Roman just be Roman. Don't push him. And I think this is like the perfect example. Also, I think this feud would have a lot more heat if Roman got screwed got screwed when he was supposed to win the title and didn't win the title, but he won the title. So it's like, he's trying to get the bad guy is trying to get his title back by defending his wife's honor. Like, what?
Yeah, so it's two guys they are not quite sure what to do with, who are both immense talents. It's a shame. So I'm sure Hell in a Cell will be great. It's just it's like, oh, I have 3 Raws or whatever before that where I have to watch like Roman like wink at the camera and be like, see how cool I am?
Let me do the hair thing one more time. All right, dudes? Cool. Speaking of 2 immense talents that they can't quite figure out. Sorry, that's mean to Titus ONeil. But Sami Zayn and Titus ONeil, that match just didn't really... I just feel bad for both of them. They both should, in a weird way, be doing better than... Like, Titus should be better than jobbing out to Sami, and Sami should not be beating guys like Curtis Axel and Titus ONeil. He should be losing 10 to 15 pounds and trying to compete against, like, Brian Kendrick and TJ Perkins. Or I don't know, literally anybody else on the roster other than... I don't get it. It makes me sad that Sami Zayn could beat Kevin Owens cleanly in a really great match, end the feud and win it, and still be so far out of the title picture when Kevin Owens is the champion. I'm not saying he needs to be fighting for the title, but it doesn't look like if he, like, shot Kevin Owens' father or something like that, he would be able to goat him into a title match. And I've watched enough wrestling to know, if you shoot somebody's dad, you can totally get a title match.
I think you are answering your own question about why they haven't said it, but they should probably go in this direction. But why Sami Zayn is wrestling nothing matches against nobodies, which is that Kevin Owens is champion, and he's the handpicked champion of the Authority.
Oh, yeah. But still, please don't. I agree with you, and that's, like, cool. But can it be somebody good or interesting as opposed to Titus ONeil, who's on his, like... And I love Titus as a person outside the context of explicitly being a professional wrestler. Like I like him on Total Diva. Like what I've seen from him on Total Divas and the stuff he does like outside of wrestling through wrestling, like to be a star. I think he's a great guy, but him like selling the Titus brand doesn't. I'm not saying it can't go anywhere, but like. I just feel like Sami should be higher up on the card, and if the reason you think it's happening is the reason it's happening, that's cool. They kind of should hint at it a little bit more and have them be in more exciting matches, I guess.
I feel like it'll be a slow burn. Like this Rollins feud has to end. Because in my head, Owens stays champion until Mania, probably. So we got a long way to go.
Hopefully. Did you want to talk about the main event as the other thing you liked, or will you leave that to me? That's totally up to you.
Wait, did I? I already said something I didn't like. Oh boy. Yeah, I'll talk about something on the periphery of it. You can talk about the match itself, or we can both talk about it or whatever. I loved the moment with Bayley and Dana, which was Bayley just being like, listen, I've done all this before. I'm not going to take your shit. And she just shoves Dana into a wall. It's like she doesn't have to do all the growing up again just because she's in WWE. She's fully confident. She's a former NXT champion. She had a lengthy reign. The only reason she lost is Asuka, which, I don't know, no one in the universe is going to beat Asuka. So, like, nothing to be ashamed of. And, Bayley knows her time is next. Whether it's Charlotte who wins or Sasha who wins, Bayley's going to be next in line for that opportunity. And it's cool to see her have that confidence and just distill it into slamming Dana Brooke into a wall, which also took Dana out of the equation for the main event, so we could straight up have Sasha for Charlotte.
Yeah, I thought that was a really clever way to do it, because I was like, how are they going to get... Because I didn't think Dana was going to go out with her, but I wasn't sure how exactly they were going to do it, and then I saw her give Bayley a hard time, and I was like, oh, that's how they're going to do it. Like they telegraphed it, but only immediately beforehand. Where you're like, "Oh, that's how they're gonna make that thing come together with the other thing." I also liked Bayley sticking up for herself in a way that, like, she's trying to tell us she's not Sting, but she's aware that Sting was the type of person that got himself in these kind of situations. I like that she's. The self-awareness of a that pure of a babyface and the self-confidence of that pure of a babyface is cool to see, because usually they're total doofuses, like just dummies, who just don't get when's the time to stick up for yourself and when's not the time to stick up for yourself. And I just thought she looked good back there beating the crap out of Dana. It was good. She looks tough in a way that she can sometimes not. She doesn't look like a person with pluck. She looks like a person you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, it's really important, tiny moment for her. Not a tiny moment, but like a short moment for a character that speaks a lot about the direction that she's heading in. And that's a great thing. As wonderful as the Sasha-Charlotte chemistry is, I assume the feud is going to end at Hell in a Cell. Hopefully in a cell. That would be wondrous. They just had the first advertised main event for women on Raw in over a decade. So, man, if anyone has deserved the first Hell in a Cell match between women, like, give it to them. Their chemistry is amazing, and I assume that's the blow off, and then Bayley gets dibs on the next feud.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to keep Dana out or get Dana out, either one of the two. With the Hell in a Cell, like, I think it also makes sense within the context of what's happening with them. Did you want to add anything else about that, or did you want to start talking about the match, which was good, not great, but an excellent Raw main event?
No, go for it.
Yeah, I thought, like I said, I thought it was an excellent Raw main event. I don't think it was pay-per-view quality Lemonade, but I thought it was a very good match, a great title match to end a Raw. I think that at this point, I want to see them do new things against new people, but it's also cool to see them upping the ante with stuff like the corkscrew moonsault, which I don't remember seeing from Charlotte. That looked cool as hell. I was interested in Charlotte's reaction after the match. I thought that was interesting, both on screen and the fact that she retired her wrestling boots on Twitter. I wonder if they're going somewhere with that, or if she's just going to continue to be a bad guy, a bad girl. Bad girl sounds so much worse than bad guy. A villain. There, that's easier. She's going to be a villain going forward, if they're going to try to make her out to be like a Flair style babyface where you root for him even though you know he's dirty because you just like him and he's so great that his greatness leads you to root for him. But I don't know if that's going to happen, but she's really, and I've said this before, she's entering a stratosphere which you just don't see a lot, which is she can make people into main eventers just by walking in the same, like walking into them. Basically, she can start feuds now that are big time feuds just by being on screen.
Yeah, I think it'd be a shame if they made her a face, even the Flair kind of face, because she is, along with Miz, like one of the purest. I mean, she's the purest heel that Raw has.
And it's wonderful.
She's just such an asshole, and she's gotten so much better at it. Like she was a pretty good heel at first when Rick was there, but pretty much from the moment she pushed her dad out, it was just like, I am better at being you than you are. That, she's just become transcendent, and she's improved so much in the ring. And I think back to like where she was when the Four Horsewomen were all in NXT, and she was clearly the one lagging behind in the ring, and like you could see the potential. And now she's as good as any of them, if not better than some of them. And it's just such huge leaps and bounds, and a lot of it is this heel character. She's so good at being that style of wrestler, and it would be a real shame for her, for the women's division, and for Raw in general, if they were to switch her over to anything. So I assume that after Sasha Charlotte's done, we get Dana finally having enough of Charlotte, because Charlotte, I'm sure, will blame her in some capacity for not being able to help during a match with a locked cage.
Or blame her for getting it hurt before this match and not being able to help her out while she's out there.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't tell if Dana is just going to be perpetually like beaten down emotionally, or if she'll finally stand up and say, "Holy shit, I have huge muscles. That's enough," and then just clock her. Yeah,
I mean, we can dream, can't we? I thought all the way around, and transcendent is the word I think of when I think of Charlotte. I don't like when they frame this usually, unless it's a hard heel doing it, but she looks the way a champion. She looks like a champion when she holds the belt. I don't think Sasha doesn't look like a champion, but she looks like a wrestling champion in the way that like John Cena does or Randy Orton does, where you don't have to explain to people why she's awesome or why she's like her character is champion when she goes on something like Good Morning America or something like that. She blends in very well with other athletes in that way, where she just looks like a transcendent athlete, and then you watch her and she is a great athlete. I can't believe someone that relative size can do I don't see girls much smaller than her doing corkscrew moonsaults off the top rope to the outside. That's like Randy Orton doing it. It's crazy.
Kate was explaining to me that my perception is colored of gymnasts by like Olympic gymnasts, which are all, they're all like 4'8", and made entirely of like 85 pounds of muscle. Mm-hmm. But she said like collegiate gymnasts are like, Charlotte would still be on the tall side for a collegiate gymnast, but like that's a much taller gymnast is normal in that kind of environment. So I was like, oh, okay, well, this all makes sense.
Yeah, and I just haven't. This is the first a female performer they've had that's this size that does gymnastics. I don't know the background of most of the women performers that came up, especially in the last couple of years. But like, this is a good type to find in the way that like former football players or collegiate wrestlers or MMA guys can be good male professional wrestlers. I don't think you have as many to pick from. Obviously football especially, but I think that would be a good like sport to look to recruit from if you're going to get performers like Charlotte. what Charlotte can do in the ring. Obviously, they won't have the pedigree she will, but I think she's really establishing like a new. She is the first Charlotte Flair, and I think that's cool to see someone because people are going to come through and be compared to her. But I think we're actually getting to see like the first of a type.
Yeah, I mean they've got a pretty broad base. I laugh sometimes. People are like, "Oh, they should just all the women performers. They should just comb the indies and bring in the best." And it's like, no, what they should do varied backgrounds. They should pull in gymnasts. They should pull in cheerleaders. They should pull in fitness people. They should pull in dancers. They should pull in established indie people. Like pull from all these backgrounds, and you're going to get such varied performances and performers, and it's really going to make the product better. I mean, think of the backgrounds of Becky, Bayley, Alexa, Charlotte, Sasha. Like none of them have similar backstories.
Yeah, so, like the closest are Sasha and Bayley, but even then they came through very different ways.
Yeah, Bayley was noticed by, she made it to Shimmer a few times, which is kind of like, that's huge. And especially at the time when women's wrestling was such an afterthought for WWE, Shimmer was really like up there as far as women's wrestling went. And, Sasha wrestled in the Northeast for Chaotic. It's a very different wrestling experience because that's a show you go to and there's like 2 matches maybe that have women on them, just kind of tossed in, so it's not women exclusive. So even though, yeah, like you said, they both came from the indies, but very different backgrounds, and Bayley did it for longer, and all different backgrounds because Alexa was a cheerleader, and you've got like Naomi has the dancing background, and
Naya's just a badass.
yeah.
She's like your pedigree, like big dude that you would have like a. Not to compare them in terms of their characters, but a Yokozuna, where you're just like you're really good for a worker. She's like Awesome Kong size, right? They're about the same size, and Awesome Kong was a great athlete, but I think Nia is on that next level.
Yeah. So all that, the people you can discover by having these varied backgrounds is important. And, Charlotte is a kind of a thumbs up in the direction of gymnasts. So yeah, keep looking there, but also keep looking everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. So yeah, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, in terms of the Raw episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Now let's move on to the A show.
Ha. No, really, it is. It's way better. I like Raw, but as the brother Masick says, he would marry SmackDown if possible. So let's go. They have No Mercy. They've been building towards it for the last 2 weeks because that's when they had their last show. I honestly don't remember. They all blend together at this point.
I thought No Mercy was next weekend, not this weekend. And then you were like, "Hey, ready for No Mercy preview?" I'm like, "What the fuck?"
And then you were like, "Oh, it's next week." I was like, "Lulz, nope." Those are my exact words: were lulz and nope.
Well, my life is like reordered because we spent the last week moving in or whatever. Like I didn't even watch Raw last week. I heard they punted in the last 2 hours because of the debate and everything, and I was like, I'm not gonna bother watching that. So it's the first Raw I've missed in, I don't know, 10 months probably, but I just had no idea that No Mercy was so soon. But my life will be back in order at some point, once the baseball playoffs are over and I'm more settled in the house, and then I'll get back to the routine of like, okay, this feels normal that these shows happen like that with this regularity.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it. So we'll start off with the kickoff, which right now is booked to be Swagger versus Corbin in the fight of the century. I am actually legitimately excited about this match because I like Jack Swagger and I effing love Barry Corbin.
I am furious, kayfabe, but I am furious about the finish in their match on SmackDown. Corbin was obviously reaching for the ropes, ref. It's very obvious to anybody with eyeballs.
Well, you know what? He doesn't get the benefit of the doubt because he's a big jerk. Okay, maybe if you were nicer and treated people with respect, especially veterans like Jack Swagger, maybe, just maybe, the ref would be like, oh, maybe he's reaching for the ropes. But no, Not with that attitude.
Jack Swagger was a veteran of what?
A veteran of the wrestles. He's a wrestling veteran.
Yes, we must give the benefit of the doubt to the former ECW champion.
Yeah. All-American Jack Swagger. Also, I believe, world heavyweight. Yeah, he was a world heavyweight champion. Thank you very much, Captain Attitude. You're also on the list of people who will not be given the benefit of the doubt by refs if we ever have a wrestling match.
Whatever. Jack Swagger sucks.
Wow, that's mean.
Swagger's fine. I hate his characters like 99% of the time.
Oh, yeah, no, they are awful.
in ring, though, Swagger's fine, and I'm excited to see Big Banter Baron with a chip on his shoulder taking on Jack Swagger. Especially because, as I said before, I feel like SmackDown can rehabilitate Swagger, but...
Because they've done it with literally everybody else?
Yeah, at this point, we both care about the plight of Dolph Ziggler, which should give you an indication of what SmackDown has accomplished.
Yeah, and we talk about it every week. This is getting close to Lucha in terms of a show that I just love it. I love SmackDown. Every week, I'm always just like, this is great. This is just a great wrestling show. It's, to me, the best WWE show main roster WWE show they've done basically since the SmackDown 6. Like that level of just like, oh, everybody on the show is good. Everybody seems to be important in their own way, and you have a lot of moving parts, and they all kind of interact, but they never like gunk up each other's gears. It's a very cool thing to see a very well done, just straight wrestling show. But even, and we'll get to it for the Orton Bray Wyatt stuff, like also including the stuff that makes WWE. I think they're balancing it very well. It's just a perfectly constructed, or not perfectly, but a very well constructed WWE style wrestling show, and I'm super happy with it. I am excited about, and this is not a knock on Nikki as much as it's a knock on Carmella, because I think we're done talking about Jack Swagger and Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's going to win, right? Can we just move on?
He better.
Okay. In total agreement.
If Corbin wins and yells "Go back to ECW" at Jack Swagger,
WWF title match. That's right. I said WWF title match. We will bring back Hulk Hogan in a time machine, and he will beat him because he will be the greatest wrestler of all time.
Don't bring back Hulk Hogan for anything besides getting thrown across a ring by Brock Lesnar is just not on my to-do list.
I mean literally like 1992 Hulk Hogan.
I don't like that Hogan either.
You're such a... So you hate my child. You know, we're not going to have this discussion. We're going to talk about Nikki, and we're going to talk about Carmella. So watching with Kate, my Kate, not your Kate, she was like, what is up with that accent? Because we're both from Long Island and the New York area. All of our relatives are from the New York, New Jersey area. Nobody sounds like that. Nobody.
Yep. But she's from the Jersey Shore area of Long Island.
There are G's in some words. Use one of them and an R, something. It's just, stop talking. Like, Enzo does actually have an accent. If you listen to him do interviews, he does have an accent. I have less of an accent, relatively speaking, because I was made fun of for my accent when I went to college. Apparently that did not happen with Enzo, but Enzo only has an accent when he's saying certain things. Like when he says, how you doing? He's saying it because that's almost the way that people who learn a second language, English as a second language, have a tendency to count in their first language. It's because you naturally just say those things. No one uses the Long Island or the Brooklyn or the New Jersey accent for every word that comes out of her mouth. I think she's a good worker, and I think she has a lot of potential. She has to talk like a person and not like a character.
I don't know. I enjoy stuff like this when people are heels because it just makes you hate them even more.
So bad.
You're just like, just fucking speak correctly. God damn it. I hate you, Nikki. Forearm in the face.
Oh my god, her forearms are golden. So she's taught Becky the power of the forearm too, because when Becky forearmed, I think it was Carmella, she really just like dug in on that. That forearm is. I'm so glad she has that and doesn't have to do the rack attack for her finisher. Like, she does have the TKO, but she also has a super great finisher that everybody's not like, oh, it sucks, you can't do the rack attack anymore. They're like, oh, just punch her, forearm that lady in the face, do it. And then she does, and it's awesome.
She is the queen of strong style for a reason, which I feel like started out as a joke, and then everyone was like, oh shit, no, really.
No, she does little stuff now. Like, so her and Carmella were fighting to the outside during the end game of the tag match between Becky and Nikki versus Carmella and Alexa, where she gets the Carmella drop kicks Becky, and Nikki attacks her and knocks her to the ground, and then instead of just letting Carmella roll out, she kicks her out, which is what you're supposed to do. If you wanted to get somebody out of the ring, you would kick them out, and she does, and she wouldn't have done that 2 or 3 years ago. But the change of getting all of the little things have turned her from like a possible Hall of Famer by default to like a first ballot, we're going to greatly miss her when she leaves type of Hall of Famer. I am dreading the day that Nikki leaves, but I am happy to see her willing to make stars out of people like Carmella on her way towards the finish line, wherever that may be, if it's a year, 2 years, 5 years. She understands she's in the end legacy building part of her career at this point, and not in a bad way. Chris Jericho is too. So I don't mean that she should retire kind of way, but like, she understands that she now has to use her star power to make other people, and looks like she's doing a great job with it with Carmella and eventually Becky. I'm really happy with Nikki's work, and I'm excited to see what her and Carmella do, even if I don't think it's going to be the greatest match of all time.
I'm just sitting here upset that the rumors of it being a no DQ match did not come to fruition.
You wanted her to beat up.
I just wanted them to beat the hell. I just wanted them to really destroy each other with no limitations.
I'm sorry that you can't see two people brutalize each other.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you know, they're still, and they're working on this, but they're still doing a little bit of telling us how, like, great women's wrestling is. Like, we'll really know it's truly arrived in WWE when they let them do all the same stupid shit they let the men do. Like, all of the women's wrestling they're doing right now, it's so fantastic. But, like, when it's not the best thing you've ever seen, and you just let them do stupid stipulation matches that they would let other people do, that they would let the men do, like, then we know it's really arrived. So, like, let them have a no DQ match. You know, maybe it'll be dumb. Maybe they won't have good ideas for it, but I don't know, let it happen. Same thing with Hell in a Cell. Like, it seems like we're going to do that for Sasha and Charlotte, and that's great. And I'm sure the match will be really good, but, you know, Hell in a Cell's not, like, no one's excited about Hell in a Cell matches. It's 2016. Nobody gives a shit. The last one anyone really cared about, like, leading into it, was Taker Lesnar, and that was the first one in a long time. In Roman, you know, Reigns and Wyatt did a good job, but, like, think back at all the other Hell in a Cell matches in, like, this decade, and they're just not exciting. But,
well, they don't use the cell. Like, that, the great thing about the Wyatt Reigns match was they used the cell, even if it was just to lean stuff against. They actually did stuff that involved them being in a ring surrounded by a cage.
Yeah, usually it's just the run around, hit someone's face against it a bunch of times, like the Orton Bryan one from a few years ago. And, you know, we both love both of those guys, but that was that's how they used the cage was, oh, I'm going to slam your face into the cage. Oh, I'm going to slam it into the other side now, but this one has slightly more velocity. It's a lot of that. And so, like, it's good that they're letting Sasha and Charlotte get to that point of, like, okay, everyone knows that this stipulation is stupid, but everyone gets to do the stupid stipulation now. Hooray! So I wish they'd let them do a no DQ. Yeah, let them do the same stupid shit instead of just being like, no, you have to do the greatest match of all time, and Sasha has to come fractions of an inch closer to snapping her neck each time, just so we're more excited about it. Like, let them do the no DQ. Change it before Sunday. You've got a few days, SmackDown. Let's go.
So let's presume it's not a no DQ match, just for presumption's sake. Who do you have winning?
I think Becky wins. Carmella's gotten the better of her pretty much constantly. So I feel like Nikki needs a victory. And like you said, even if Nikki gets to a Chris Jericho, like making new stars phase of her career, she needs to win some matches in order to do that.
I actually have Carmella winning, but through chicanery. I think that at this point, Nikki doesn't have another. The question, I guess, then becomes: are they going to do Becky versus Nikki? Are they going to jump right into that? Or are they going to do something with Becky and Alexa going forward? Like which is the next match? So I guess we can transition into this, which is that if it's retroactive, but I think if Carmella wins, something is going to happen that involves Alexa winning. I will predict that if Carmella wins, Alexa will also win, though I don't necessarily know if she wins the title. With Nikki, I think it can go either way, but I think if Carmella wins, that's setting a signal that like they're going to do weird stuff for the next little while, and they might push either Becky and Nikki together or Alexa and Nikki, and then have Becky and Carmella. But I feel like they have to build something off of this match, and I don't know how much you get if you have Nikki win, other than is she a better... She's already a number one contender in people's minds for Becky's title before this. She just didn't win the match that gave her the number one contendership. So like I just get the feeling they're going to have something happen with Nikki building herself back up into a main eventer, even though she is a main eventer, or they're going to have her win in such a way that it makes it obvious that she's going to eat Alexa Bliss's lunch, basically, and then have Becky have to win the title back from her. So I'm going with Carmella, and I also think that means something's going to happen. So for the SmackDown women's match, I thought they've done a really good... I think they've done as good a job with this as they've done with any other... I think that, quite frankly, the build for this is better in some ways than what's happening on Raw, because these two people don't really have a history to speak of. So you're actually just building up animosity. Like the one-hit wonder speech during a couple of SmackDowns ago was a great promo by Alexa. And I think Becky is also... They react to each other very well. They have really good chemistry.
Yeah, and I think there's a really good opportunity here to have Becky retain against Alexa, but still have Alexa look more dangerous than people, including Becky, assume she is, but not quite polished and veteran-y enough to actually beat Becky, which still manages to, bring Alexa to the next level where it's clear that she belongs and she's just not the person who happened to win a number one contenders match. I assume there'll be a bit of this with Becky for a bit, and she's going to have a lengthy reign. I don't know if Nikki's going to challenge for it while Becky's holding it. I'm still kind of under the assumption that, when Asuka is done at NXT, she'll come up and take the strap from Becky, and then things will be pretty ridiculous.
So I assume you do have Becky winning this match?
Yeah, I think Becky's going to win this and win against a lot of not completely established people. I think it makes sense actually that you say, Carmella wins if I have Becky winning, because then Carmella will feel like it's her turn, shot at the title. But I assume Becky will defeat all of the newbies for a while, and they'll get their, kind of NXT style where they got their chance, but they're not quite ready yet, but they put up a good show and give them some time, and then, they'll nail the second opportunity. It just might not be against Becky.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, at least according to the website, they seem to have those two close to each other. So I'm very interested to see how one leads into the other. I think ultimately it's going to be Becky, but I'll be very interested to see how close they let Alexa get. I think this also has a chance to be a very, very, very good match. I think this has... I think Miz and Dolph is going to... Out of the singles matches, because ain't nothing touching Styles, Ambrose, Cena. But out of the singles matches or rest of the card, I think this has the potential to be as good better than anything out there, because Becky's a great babyface, and Alexa is a heck of a heel. So I think they could really surprise some people in a way that there's more expectations on Raw matches, and they constantly have to live up to them. I think Becky and Alexa don't have high expectations, but they also have a lot of talent. It's just that people don't really know what to expect from the two of them, and I think they have a potential to surprise a lot of people, especially Alexa.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying since the moment it happened that Becky was drafted to SmackDown because she is the best wrestler of the four horsewomen, and she is the one who could best carry this new generation in. Becky was already established. Like, maybe she's not a megastar yet, but she's established. Same way Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley were all established. Bayley just wasn't there yet. But Becky is the best chance for them to get, like Alexa never won a women's title at NXT, but like everyone you promote is not going to win a title at NXT. So this is a great like secondary way to train that next core group. The people who will challenge this group, and so they're not always just fighting each other all the time. And I think they've done a really good job of, showing off like Alexa's skills and how Becky can handle her, and both on the mic and in the ring. And I'm really excited for this match.
Yeah, I think this, other than the Dolph Miz one, this is the match I'm most excited for too. I am actually more excited for this than the AJ Dean Cena match, because I have a really strong feeling I know who's going to win that.
Wait! Is it the audience?
No, nor is it our friendship, which is now over. But let's finish the show. The next match on the card is the tag team title match between the Usos and the champions. I can't remember if Heath and Rhino have a special name or if they're just Heath, Slater, and Rhino.
I think it's Heath Slater and his finishing move, Rhino.
That's nice. They should get that on the t-shirt. I don't have much to say about this other than I think that the Usos are going to win in big time.
Oh, yeah. I assume they isolate Heath and keep Rhino from being utilized as a finishing move. And then maybe we get a Heath-Rhino feud out of it. Heath has his job now, so it's not that what happens to him doesn't matter. It's just like the stakes are a little lower pretty much no matter what. And the Usos winning means we'll get Usos American Alpha, especially since Jason Jordan got his flash pin, and like Gable and Jordan have both gotten flash pins against the Usos. And the Usos had to resort to, trying to destroy them after the match again, because it seems to be, unfair seems to be the only way that they're really going to be able to beat them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and that's different than the Revival, who we'll get to later after this when we talk about the Dusty. So yeah, I think we're both in agreement that this would be the biggest surprise in a while if the Usos didn't win. And I obviously said that about the first time, but I would be shocked, absolutely flabbergasted if the Usos don't win this and win it super dirty clean, like totally cheating, but definitively.
Yeah, I expect to see some rules bent and broken, and possibly broken over the head of Rhino.
Yeah, I think he's going to take a pretty bad bump at some point. Hopefully, a lot less dangerous than it'll look, but I have a feeling they're going to do something nasty to Rhino, because the one thing I do like about the Usos a lot is that they're actually edgy in a way that you don't see. Like, they actually, like, that kick to the knee looks like you could really mess somebody up doing it. And I like that. Especially with a team that seems as safe as them, that both previously in terms of like the meta idea of being safe and kid oriented, and now just as performers, I don't think they have any major injuries from their opponents or anything like that. So it's cool to see them like push the boundaries of what looks safe for you to be doing to another guy. I think that's an interesting dynamic for them, because they have an actual edge in a way that they're not just telling you. They're like, no, these guys seem actually kind of pissed off in real life about what their position in the company is, and they're channeling it through their new characters.
It's also a good way to differentiate their super kicks from I mean, so many people have super kicks in WWE now, and it's fine. But it's a good way to like give theirs this different vibe.
Yeah. So we both have the Usos. We have after this match. Unless you want to add more about what you think is going to happen to the Usos and Rhino, or are you good? You don't have like.
I'm good.
All right. I always want to make sure that you don't have more to say about Rhino and the Cheese Whiz and the crackers, because he threw out a lot of crackers one of these weeks, and it was a real tragedy. But I digress. So on a scale from 1 to the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life, where was the Dolphumentary for the amazing Miz TV Dolph Ziggler interview segment? One of the best Miz TVs ever. That Dolphumentary really was just mean. It was just mean.
That plus the Spirit Squad beatdown of Ziggler, like until Ziggler stood tall at the end, I was like, oh shit, Ziggler's gonna win and win the IC title and not retire or come back as someone else or like just repackaged or whatever. Because it was so mean. The whole segment was just so mean. And Miz had an answer to every inspirational thing Dolph tried to say about himself and his chances after. And it was just the most like so defeated Dolph in so many ways. But I feel like it was a good indication of like, where do you go? Like if Dolph wins the IC title, what do you do next? We're all just trained to assume he's going to lose it.
Yeah. And if your entire life is based off of you winning this title, but your life sucks, you're probably not going to win the title. And I think that's the argument that Miz was making is like, I've watched this movie. I know how it ends. You're going to lose because whether or not you realize that I'm the good guy in this story, I can't deal with the... I like the Dolph Ziggler promos, but they ring so hollow to me because I've heard John Cena make them 100 times.
I don't know. See, I feel like they're much more believable with Ziggler, where he's trying to convince himself that what he is saying is true. Unlike Cena, who just assumes, he just takes his own authority on authority. Where it's like, well, I'm saying it, so that's the truth. Ziggler really sounds like someone who's trying to convince himself that this is not the end of the line. And that makes me feel even more like he's going to lose on Sunday and he's going to retire and he'll come back and it'll lead to a massive pop. And then we'll get the new Dolph Ziggler, the one who can actually win matches. Well, I just don't think there's any point in doing it now because like the big overcoming adversity, changing the direction of your career should not be. And the IC title, like they've done a good job of building it back up. It shouldn't be for the IC though. You use that bullet on the championship.
Which he's already lost. Pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think here you have him fail at the IC and come back. And if that's the level you want to have him win at, or like have Miz at some point be WWE champion and like have him beat him for that, but like you just can't do it now because he hasn't hit rock bottom yet. Rock bottom would be admitting that it's not working and walking away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Because you mentioned this to me earlier, because I was like, because I knew what happened, but I hadn't watched SmackDown yet. And you basically said that more or less, that like, and it really surprised me. But then you explained to me like, no, it totally makes sense that Ziggler would lose, and you explained why pretty much, and it clicked with me like oh right, this isn't real life. They can totally have him lose and come back under a mask. Or come back as Nick Nemeth. They can do a bunch of stuff with him. They could even have him come back as a deranged version of the Spirit Squad.
They could have him come back as Ziggler, even, and just say, I want a match to end my retirement, and if I lose this, like, I will move out of the country. Like, I won't even do stand-up comedy anymore. Like, I'll just be done forever.
And then Jon Stewart comes in and hits him with a chair.
But like there are ways to make him come back. This is wrestling. There are always ways to make you come back. It just seems like it makes the most sense because I think SummerSlam was the best example of this for me. You can rehab Dolph Ziggler a lot on the weekly shows, but in the big match, I don't think anyone truly believes he's going to win. And the only way that's going to change is with a real reboot and have him just come back after an extended amount of time, ride the momentum of everyone being excited to see him again, and just have him very quickly and immediately win something with authority, and then you've changed his trajectory. But like right now, all you'll do is have him win the IC title, and you go, oh, good, so he's won that 5 times before, which means he's due to lose it a 5th time.
Yeah, this isn't his first title. Like, if it was his first title, it'd be like, oh, that's crazy. He's been a wrestler for however long, and this is his first title. But it's like, he's got this already. This is a thing that he's accomplished. So you're just right back to where, like, yeah, even the trajectory of the story in terms of inspiration isn't there. Like, it's not high enough stakes. I mean, it is high enough stakes because he might lose his career, but, like, the actual IC title itself just isn't there. And I went from the beginning of the day not thinking that that The Miz had any chance to essentially... are you predicting that Dolph Ziggler loses?
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to agree with you. I mean, you completely sold me on it. I don't want to say it doesn't make any sense, but it makes a lot more sense for The Miz to win, especially on the hot streak The Miz has been on. It seems kind of unfair or dumb to just feed him to Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, there are other... Like, Miz should have other IC matches against other people and really hold on to it for a long time. I don't think there should be a title change for it. There were so many IC title changes for so long. Even if he keeps it through, like, shitty, nefarious means, like, someone having it for a long time will mean something. Because it will make it mean that much more when someone finally takes it, and we're not there yet.
Yeah, no, I also wonder if you let him actually hold it as long as Honky Tonk Man did.
900 years? How long was that?
I think it was like a year and a couple of months, and I could see them doing that with The Miz. He's a big enough star, and they also hate to have people have there's a certain list of people, and now that Honky Tonk Man's been on Lucha Underground, I have a feeling he's on the shit list, and I would like to see them punish him by having the greatest intercontinental champion of all time, The Miz, be the longest reigning. I would like that to be The Miz's legacy, and I feel like this would be the time they would do it, or they could never do it again.
Okay, so Honky Tonk Man had it for uninterrupted 454 days. So he's not had the championship for the most days of anyone. That is Pedro Morales, who had it for 619 days. 619, booyaka booyaka. And 454 days. So I don't know, something ridiculous like that with The Miz would be fine. I feel like they already don't like referencing the Honky Tonk Man as the longest reigning champion. Like, the go-to for them all the time is always like, Chris Jericho, 9-time Intercontinental Champion. That's the most. And also the most important IC title stat that there is.
There are no other stats. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and I think The Miz is the type of guy that they could do that with. They could just be like, listen, we're going to keep this title on you forever. And when Dolph comes back, he might be the one that takes it. But we're going to put it on you forever. Because he deserves it. I think Miz is a super long reigning IC champion is the best possible place for him. If only because the main event's so stacked that, like, I love The Miz. We both love The Miz. We're huge Miz supporters. I had talked about The Miz before I was even on the show, but how great The Miz is. But I don't think he's on the AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, John Cena level in terms of when you can also have him. He's a much better, like, closer than he is a starter, if that makes sense. So yeah, he would be a totally great main eventer. But maybe, just maybe, he could be the greatest one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time, full stop. And I think if you can set him up that way, you do so. I think he's just the perfect guy for it. Because he can go in the ring. It's not an issue of him not being able to go. It's an issue of him not... I don't think he has that, like, sixth gear that main eventers need to have in terms of longevity. But I think he's great as a top-of-the-line mid-carder. And I think that would... This would cement him as, like, one of the great mid-carders of all time. Like a Mr. Perfect type of guy.
Yeah, it's a great place to be, and it's his 5th reign, so like he's got a nice round number for number of reigns, even if it happens to be in his last or whatever. It's the best use of him right now. I would love to see him get another shot at the WWE Championship and possibly against John Cena, so we can do that whole thing again without The Rock being there. Um, but if Cena wins next year at Mania, the timing will be right if you have Miz lose the IC title after a super long reign, whether it's the record-setting one or not, and you can do that whole thing again. It's just now is not the time.
Yeah. So we both think that The Miz is going to win, which brings us to our second to last match of the night, which is Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. And as sure as we both are with The Miz winning, I have no effing clue who's going to win this match.
I think Bray's going to win.
Which, good for
him. Says the stupid man who is often fooled. Not you. That was... I always think Bray's going to win, and then he doesn't. And yet I keep going back to this.
You want to think it over, buddy, or you good?
No, Bray. I think Bray's going to win. I think teleporting. It's so great. I love Randy locking him like in a trailer and just being like, "Yeah, this will get him," and then not realizing like, "Oh, I just locked the dude with like teleporting powers in a trailer." So Bray just calls out to Sister Abigail. It's like, "Hey, it's been a while, sis. What's up? You want to get me out of this trailer?" And that's the way Bray Wyatt talks. And
hey, girl.
Orton goes to check up on him in the trailer, and he's like, "Oh shit, the teleporting magic dude is not." Oh right, the teleporting magic. Shit, this plan seems so good.
Also, the WWE trope of never lock somebody in a room because when you go to get him, he will not be in that room.
Randy, you should know by now.
Just reminds me of Steph when they locked Dean Ambrose, just being like, have we ever locked somebody in a room and had him stay there? It's like, whoa, Steph, kayfabe.
I hope this means Sister Abigail will actually show up. That they have a secret, like when they just showed, like Braun just showed up and everyone was like, who the shit is Braun? And it's like, oh, he's just been doing house shows at NXT. I hope they have like a Sister Abigail like that, or they've just brought in someone that they're immediately putting on the main that, they secretly signed.
I want them to do Sarah Del Rey. I mean, she's there. She doesn't have to work. She needs to. She can. She's a great worker.
It doesn't, what is it? Oh man, the NXT like reality show they have. Breaking Ground. Can't do it. She's established there. She's just a teacher there. We know. We'd be like, oh, that doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I feel like you could pull double duty considering that they were also. It's fine. It's fine.
As long as they don't just put Bo in a wig and say that's Sister Abigail, it'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I actually want to see that now. So you have Bray winning?
I have Bray winning under the assumption that we're finally going to get Sister Abigail because, I think we've gotten to the point where no one is expecting to see her, which is probably a good time to just be like, yep, there she is.
We told you she was real.
Also, Eric Rowan's out. Braun Strowman's on Raw. Luke Harper's not back yet. Bray is either by himself or, you finally use this moment to bring Sister Abigail in.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with you, but this is, like I said, to me, this is like a 55-45 coin flip, where I think that Bray has a slight advantage in terms of where they can go with him winning and a bunch of other stuff. But it's Randy Orton, so you never really know. It's kind of like it's a lesser version of the John Cena thing, where it's like, oh yeah, we could give you the best argument in the entire world as to why Bray Wyatt should win, and like all the things you could do, and just be like, but it's Randy Orton, so let's have him win it. Yeah, I definitely think that that's going to end up being the case. Is that Bray wins with Sister Abigail? I don't think there's any chance he beats Randy Orton clean. This isn't Roman Reigns. This isn't Daniel Bryan. This is an actual guy who's genuinely established as a top main eventer, like a historical main eventer. So I just don't see Bray winning clean, but I think he has a pretty good chance of Sister Abigail related shenanigans leading him to victory. Which I guess, speaking of John Cena, leads us to the final match of the night, which will be the triple threat between AJ, Dean, and Mr. Cena. Their promo, quote unquote, to end the last episode of the Go Home episode of SmackDown was very good. Mostly because it was just AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose calling John Cena out on all of his shit. And Dean Ambrose and John Cena. John Cena getting the best of Dean Ambrose without saying, it says sometimes it's just worth it to fight or whatever the hell he said. I don't know. Some gung-ho thing about, sticking up for yourself, probably. And he tackles him to the ground, and then AJ gets involved, and then you're like, oh man, I can't believe they do it really well, which is like, oh, John Cena's gonna win. Wait, no, AJ Styles. Wait, no, Dean Ambrose. I felt they did a really good job of kind of telegraphing that, but in a way that you were like, oh, maybe they're not gonna do it. Because they showed Dean sitting up too many times for me to not think he was gonna get involved, but they took it to the last possible second before they had him attack AJ from behind and DDT him on the ramp. And I like that. And Cage Side Seats actually wrote something about this. This is the first time in a very long time, I think it's 24 shows, that John Cena is the main event. Which I think...
SummerSlam 2014, right?
Yeah. It's been a long time. And it's not that John Cena hasn't been putting on great matches. It's just this is the first time he's really you have something of mine and I'm here to take it back helps define this match.
Yeah, it's not his first championship match during that stretch either. It's just when he's had them, they've gone, okay, let's put this in the middle of SummerSlam for pacing purposes. But yeah, it's fascinating to think oh wow, he wasn't in the main event of any of these Manias, and he wasn't in the main event of anything in between. Just kind of ridiculous. And he had other things to do besides the Rumble even. And I feel like we didn't even notice that it happened.
Which is good for the WWE and frankly for John Cena, because it wasn't like you didn't talk about John Cena after shows he was on. It's just he did other things. Other things also happened. I think it's a testament to the version of the company he helped build, just as much as it's a testament that it's surprising that it's happened. And I think Cage Side Seats brought up it's 4 or 5 guys have main evented every show since then, but you were looking at a streak of before that, basically 1 out of every 5 out of every 6 shows was main evented by John Cena, including a couple of crazy streaks. So it's interesting to see his career trajectory go not down, but the company rise up above where he is kind of. And now he's back at the top of one of the brands, which is where it feels like he belongs. But he's not I think he's quasi the favorite because he's John Cena, but he's not the runaway LOL Cena wins favorite.
Oh, I think Styles is the favorite, but I think they're telling a good story of Cena actually having odds that he can't just will himself into overcoming. Mm-hmm. Because the people that he's facing are just too talented, and maybe he is a little too part-time. Maybe he isn't focused in the way that he claims that he's focused. And I think it's a good actual John Cena redemption story for them to tell to close out at Mania. Unlike the John Cena's having the worst year ever, where he wins all the time and main events over the WWE champion constantly.
Worst year ever. Wah, wah. Yeah, that was a funny storyline. So you think AJ is going to win?
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you who's definitely not going to win and probably going to take the pin. Dean Ambrose. But I think I'm also in agreement that AJ Styles takes this. I think he beats Dean Ambrose. So Dean Ambrose either has to do some soul searching or does a side thing with John Cena for the time being, where John Cena blames him. Because I think the dynamic, and we've talked about this a bunch, that the dynamic between Ambrose and Cena is much more interesting than the dynamic between Styles and Cena, which is super interesting in and of itself. But Dean Ambrose and John Cena's characters seem to genuinely not like each other without either of them being even kind of the bad guy.
I love that Cena said Dean Ambrose doesn't like John Cena, but John Cena doesn't care about Dean Ambrose. That's just so great. You don't even show up on my radar, buddy.
Yeah. I also think he thinks very highly of Dean Ambrose, because he wouldn't be giving him like, oh, you can just talk shit right to my face, because he was talking shit right to John Cena's face in front of everybody, and John Cena did very little to counteract anything. Literally, he said, "I'm just gonna beat you up."
But I do think Cena's going to take the pin, by the way.
Oh, you do? That's really interesting.
I mean, he lost clean to Ambrose on SmackDown like 2 weeks ago. And if you're telling this story about how maybe Cena doesn't have it in the way that he claims he does, they already just took the power of his words away from him. And then he wasn't the one who stood tallest at the end of SmackDown. So I feel like having him lose this kind of match, where he can't beat Ambrose and he can't beat Styles, and these are the two guys who are in his face about the fact that he can't beat them, is huge. And it'll do a really good job of telling the story, this actual redemption story of him coming back and focusing and like, I'm done with my reality show. I'm here to come back full time and wrestling every night, all that. And then he can win again.
All right. Yeah. So, it's an excellent point about Cena just dropping down a little bit. And the actual redemption story, which if you if you listen to our Road to ... WrestleMania ? Episode, we talk about how it seems like they're pointing towards an AJ Styles and John Cena main event or important match at WrestleMania, and I think him losing clean, or not clean, but losing the match, because if you think AJ Styles is going to win and John Cena is going to be the one that takes the pin, that would then clearly make it that AJ Styles pinned John Cena, which would be perfect. Because he's one of the few guys to ever just beat John Cena straight up, clean, in the middle of the ring. Good night. Like, thanks for coming out. So I definitely think they could do that again. I personally think that Ambrose is going to take it, and I'll be interested to see, like, that's I'm more interested in than the Victor, which is why I said I may end up being more interested in the Becky Lynch Alexa Bliss match in terms of, like, not stakes but surprise. I think this will probably be the match of the night, though, because these three guys, AJ Styles and John Cena are top performers, and Dean's very good, especially in triple threats, because a lot of his weaknesses kind of get hidden. The fact that he rebound clotheslines all the time seems less annoying when you have, like, two guys to do it to, I guess. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this match a great deal.
Me too. I think they've done a really good job of building two SmackDown exclusive pay-per-views so far, with the supposedly thinner roster. It'll be interesting to see if they do a similar setup this time, where it's like, because they don't have a ton of matches on the card again. So, it feels like they're all going to get time, and that's great. If Raw wants to do we have 9 matches, and SmackDown's like, we'll do 6. It's great. It helps differentiate the shows further, and it tickles different things for different wrestling fans.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've done a really just great job with SmackDown of building the story that they want to tell and not trying to tell any other stories on top of it. I'm a huge fan of SmackDown. So it looks like we're gonna be moving on from No Mercy to the Dusty Rhodes Classic, the second. Well, the first one was obviously was won by Finn. That's why I said win. Was won by Finn and Joe, and then they broke up, so it did not work out well for them. So, in general, it seems like a pretty exciting roster of teams, but I think that, in particular, the most interesting thing, and this is something you brought up, is that the Revival and the Authors of Pain are both in this tournament.
Only one of them can win. I don't know when they'll match up against each other, or what's going to happen if they match up against each other, but you've got the Unstoppable Smart Tag Team Champions, who are heels, and the Unstoppable Gigantic New Tag Team, who are also heels. And at some point, it feels like their paths are going to cross, or some shenanigans are going to have to happen to knock one of them out in an unfair way. That sets up, a further feud. I don't know, someone cheats to beat Authors of Pain. Not cheats, but, surprises them with a flash pin or something, like American Alpha did against the Usos, and then Pain, interrupts their next match or whatever to just destroy them and help them lose, and it builds a feud off from there. it just seems weird, and not a bad weird, that the Authors of Pain and Revival have a chance of meeting up where only one of them can win and the tag titles aren't on the line, that sort of thing.
So you think but almost outside of that, but also involved with that, do you think neither of those teams are going to win, or do you think one of those teams is going to win but never actually have to face the other?
I feel like it's got to be the latter, especially because if the Authors of Pain win, they can challenge the Revival after, like, hey, we just won this tournament, you didn't win it, now it's our turn to be tag champs or whatever. But it also feels weird to have them actually face each other because it's heels versus heels. So I'm not quite sure what they're going to do with this, but that's part of what makes this so interesting, is that both teams are there. It's something to keep, it's good. It's good to not always be able to try and, like, figure everything out and be legitimately surprised or, excited by the directions they decide to take. And this is just one of the, like, probably the biggest thing that's sticking out for me is like, oh shit, both of these teams are in here and only one of them can win, or neither of them can win. And that itself would be fascinating. How do they get to that?
I have one other question. How many heads are going to get kicked off by Itami and Ibushi on a tag team? Like, how many people are just going to get straight up decapitated?
All of them, which is a shame, but I don't think it'll be anyone who's signed to a WWE contract, so I guess that's fine.
Yeah, you might actually get you're going to get your fucking head kicked in chant at the Dusty Rhodes Classic, and I'm super excited for that. So yeah, I think we talked, because there's a lot of teams in this tournament, but most of them really, in a way that even I think the Cruiserweight Classic didn't have. I really only see, like, at tops, like, it's probably going to be the Final Four is probably going to be some version of the Authors of Pain or the Revival, Ibushi and Itami, and, like, one of the generic tag teams you don't see coming. Maybe DIY, but I don't think that's going to be the case either. So I think that this will be a storyline rich classic, Dusty Rhodes Classic, but I don't know if the end of it will be as important as the journey getting there.
Which kind of, Finn and Joe winning was kind of retroactively made important, because at the time it was just like, oh, they just had a really great match and they didn't tell the story. And then, like, they told the story later. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in that moment, it was just about the result. So maybe, I don't know, maybe this time, since it's the second Dusty and emotions are a little, like, they're in a different place this time than they were.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have more shenanigans and, like, general fuckery this time around.
Looking forward to it. Anytime you can have general fuckery, it's a win in my book. So it sounds like it's time to say goodbye, unless you have anything you want to add about the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic.
No.
All right. Well, Mark, where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter at Mark_Normandin, and that's Mark with a C. You can find my wrestling writing at sbnation.com/wrestling. I will have a preview for No Mercy up on Sunday, and I will have a recap up for it on Monday. And I won't even have to watch it from my phone on a bus this time around, which is, I think it's an improvement. I prefer the couch viewing.
With the big TV.
And you can see SB Nation's wrestling content at cagesideseats.com for the most part. It's not where my stuff is, but it is where you find Rudo Radio, and it's where you can find most of the rest of what we do.
Yep. And you can find me on the internet at the Nickster. That's THEN1CKSTER. The streak is back. That's 2 in a row. The streak is back.
Excuse me. I'm not the one who screwed it up, okay? So you can't call me a jerk.
No, I can call you a jerk for saying that 1 isn't a streak when you knew I was going to come back the next episode, not next week, because we skipped 2 episodes. But the next episode, even stronger. You didn't believe in me.
I didn't.
You're so mean. You can also check us out on soundcloud.com/Rudo Radio. That's RUDORADIO. And you can also check us out on iTunes. You can rate, review, and subscribe to us. Do you have a review you would like them to enter?
I would like them to tell us the number of heads they believe will be kicked off by Ibushi and Itami.
Yeah, both together, like cumulatively, just how many heads are going to get kicked off. Thank you in advance. And I guess unless you have something else you would like to say, Mark.
No.
It's time to say the only thing left to say, which is bye.